all. Do you like gifted sub?
Okay. Hopefully we're live and everything's good. Looking good. Levels are all right. Yeah, okay, check, check, check. Let me know if the music balance is good and everything. Here we go. Welcome back. Another week of hacking on Haskell in the year of our Lord in 2023. We've been working the last few weeks on a cool project called Lambda Trek. And this is a clone of a really old game from like the 70s based on Star Trek. There's many clones and many variants. It's kind of like a roguelike in space-ish, but you use commands instead of just like key bindings, although maybe we could mix it up a little bit and add some key bindings. I don't know. No huge plans for this game, but it is a learning experience. We've introduced some new libraries that we're getting used to on the stream here that we haven't really used in a lot of our previous projects. We're using the cool brick library for our terminal UI, and if this is your first time tuning in, why don't we go ahead and fire up what we have so far and give us an idea of what to work on next, because last week, I think we were working on tweaking the phaser fire command and some of the rules around that. We added like shields to the enemies, and we added the damage calculations and a little bit of randomness to it too, which we might need to tweak a little bit still. So let's go into the project directory in Lambda Trek. There we go. And let's run this bad boy. Alright, so this is what we have so far as our basic setup here. This is like the map of our like quadrant, and the S is our ship. This little less than sign, I guess, is the enemy ship, and there's a star there in our quadrant. And so far we've implemented the move command to move around the quadrant. And we can move like 2, 3, 4. Move a little closer. 3, 6. We can move further away, I guess, from the enemy ship. 5, 3, 4. There we go. Now the phasers command. So we can shoot for 10 energy when we damage the enemy ship. At 8-3 for 0. And that's because our current like calculation formula is not quite right. Yeah, we should probably fix that. And tweak it a little bit. And just get that polished off so we can move on. Because what we want to do next after we get the damage going is just kind of like obscure the damage a little bit. Maybe. It's just so that like you get an idea of how much damage was done, but not in like a figure or a number, as you might get like a report from your combat station that, you know, this is, you're not going to get like, we did 223 points of damage to the enemy, right? You'll be like, oh, that was a heavy hit or something like that. Their shields are down, that kind of thing. So we'll need to be able to do that, just to make it a little bit, the immersion a little bit more cool and real. And then yeah, it like depletes their energy and all that sort of stuff. So we're getting on that. Okay, so opening up the project and the editor and all that sort of stuff. Let's get going. So let's open up Emacs. Make sure the chat's up here, visible, good. Size that with the time and window manager properly. Boom. Okay. No, that's not. Why is it going meta G all of a sudden? Hang on a second. Yeah, my text inputs are not working here. Something weird's happening. Let's try that again. I don't think it's Windows. There we go. Okay. For some reason it freaked out for a minute there. Yeah, but it's all good now. Okay. So, let's go. Simulation, combat. That's our combat module. We handle our combat functions. Okay, let's get our test runner going. Gonna constantly build our project and run the tests. Fast. I'll watch. Let's probably be a little bit better about that on this project. Using our test framework and writing the tests. Really specs for our game. Okay. So there, right away we couldn't, I checked in the test code broken. My bad. Let's go fix that quickly. Broke the test, bruh. Can't do that. Okay, let's see, 99. Right, because, why is that? That's breaking because calculate enemy phaser damage. Returns a phaser damage results, whereas before we just had it as a tuple. That's right. I did some small tweaks after the stream last week, where instead of this tuple, I created this type, phaser damage results, so that we could keep track of some metadata about the, you know, the hit, or rendering that text, and also just for simplifying things, I guess, a little bit. Making it more explicit. I don't know. But it lets us report the amount of hit points that we actually did, because we have the little bit of random factor we wanted to add in there, as well as how much damage we did to the shields, so that we could add something like that to the report that's given in the UI to the user. And yeah, so we're gonna update the test just to change that. So this should be the identity of phaser damage results. And in this test case, we don't care about the first three fields of that, just the damaged enemy. Let's pull this over a little bit. Stack those operators up. They line up nicely, makes it easier to read. There we go. A little better. Okay. That takes care of that one. We're going to need to do the same thing here. Okay. Still some more. Here. Okay, one more. Okay. Bum, 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 bum. And that looks like it's compiling and linking and everything. Okay, back to good. What was it? The calculate enemy phaser damage. Enemy phaser damage results tests. Okay. So let's see if we can write a test that catches the, or can better specify what we want to have happen when damage is applied to an enemy. So right now we saw that it can be 0. Even though the phaser's command was pretty high amount of energy, but and it should be higher than the enemy shields. So in this case, this test is saying that when the enemy hit points are, say, 10, and the input energy is 5 from the command, let's calculate phaser damage. Yeah. For this enemy, then when we compare the damaged enemy's hit points to the original enemy's hit points, it should be less than. I guess it's always going to be true. Even if we do 0? It shouldn't be 0, so we could probably add an assertion for that. Even the phaser damage result, actually, that field reports how much hit point damage was done. Damage dealt. And we could say that the damage dealt should be greater than 0. And the damaged enemy's health is decremented by that amount. All right, so that would be
the dark veil of night descends.
damaged.
To the mainstream, our order numbers have
So the damaged, or in other words, the damaged enemy hit points, or is it hit points? Yeah, hit points. Yeah, hit points plus the damage dealt should be equal to the enemy's original health. Hit points. Ooh. Okay, so this type error here is just, I think it can't, without the annotation, it doesn't quite know that damaged E and enemy here implement this type class has hit points. So I think flexible contexts ought to fix that. So we'll just go ahead and add that. Language. Flexible contexts. There we go. Okay. That holds up. That's still true. And the other thing we wanted to say is that damage dealt is not 0. Oops. There we go. Okay, that still passes. Okay, let's see. In the shield, let's go to the shields up context. So in the shields up context, we can, I think we can do the same comparison, or a similar one. We can even add a very simple, it should not be 0 test. Do some damage if when the energy is greater than the shields. Let's grab an enemy definition like this. Set the shield value to 5. Then the phaser damage result of the damage dealt. Maybe we can get the shield damage dealt. And the I don't need the enemy index, but the enemy ship. And that comes from our usual calculation here. Borrow that. Except our damage will say 10. Greater than 5. So we want this to do some damage to the hit points and take out those shields. Oh no, let's let bind that. Excuse me. Okay, and then, yeah. Let's say... So the shield damage should be 5. Off the hop. I'll write another little function here. Enemy E. Shield damage. Belt should equal to 5. And damage dealt is going to have a little bit of variance to it, which should be greater than 0. And the enemy that we're testing here, the hit points would be less than the input, the original enemy's points. That should be pretty sufficient, hopefully, to a spec. And then damaged. Oh, we should be damaged enemy maybe. I'll leave it that way for now. Damaged enemy should satisfy. And it should satisfy shield damage. No, there. That's why that needs to be indented properly. Alright, that should work now. Yeah? No? Oh, what did I do now? Predicate failed. Oh, there we go. Okay. So the enemy the damaged enemy ended up in this state. The hit points are 4. The shield value is 3. Alright, our shield damage result should have equaled 5. The damage dealt should have been greater than 0. The enemy hit points should be greater than E hit points, this one. So 4 is less than 10. So that should have been fine. Let's Possibly damage dealt is 0. We're not reporting shield damage. I would like this to report more information because I feel like there's not enough here, and I don't want to have to like add debugging. So I think one trick we can do here is to pass the damage or phaser damage result in with the should satisfy. Phaser damage results. And break it apart here. Record wildcards is going to make that look ugly as heck. Damage dealt. And shield damage dealt. And whatever index and enemy. And then we just have to change this to be that phase. I wrote it as phase. Phaser damage results. Oh, we don't have a show instance for it. Okay. Well, that's why you should always write them. This is better. Okay, so hit point damage was 6. Shield damage was 2. Enemy hit points for 3. Okay. That's better because now we can see that we expected shield damage dealt to be 5, but it's only reporting 2. Right, so that's not right. Or it only calculated 2. Okay. There we go. So now we just need to get this lining up to our spec. And we're hard coding shield damage too, right? So that's one thing. And because I left myself a to-do to fix this, so there we go. So the way I've been thinking about this when I wrote this spec is that we just flat out remove points from the shields until we can actually hit the ship. So that is almost like a difference. And this random phaser factor, I think should be added to the damage amount that actually does get to the ship. So whatever input, I think the formula should be whatever input amount minus the current shield amount. That difference is how much damage to apply to the shields. And yeah, let's just do it. Okay. It'd be easier just to do it. Right, so shield damage is going to be the absolute value of taking the enemy's shields value for the difference from the input energy amount. Alright, I forgot this bunch was a little ugly with this. And we want absolute not applied to that, but this whole thing. Okay, and that makes that pass. Okay, so we need to say that the enemy's field should also be 0. Okay, so the damaged enemy's shields go down to 0 in this case. And the enemy's hit points will be something less than the input hit points. Okay, and damage delta is going to be greater than 0. Okay. That's pretty good. Alright, let's use that. So after we do the phaser... well, let's just commit this first. Update, calculate... enemy phaser damage. Okay, so we take the difference in the input amount and the enemy shield value, and subtract as the shield damage, and subtract that from the enemy shield value. And we apply some damage. Remaining damage to the ship. Okay, and the enemy shields should soak some damage. So if we're not able to overcome their shields because we didn't use enough input energy, it should still reduce their shields by a certain amount, but not do any damage. Let's call it, this one should just be like, should soak damage. Okay, so if the shield value is 10 here, and we only shoot it with 5, then the damaged enemy should have the same amount of hit points, and their shield value should be reduced by 5. And we'll just take that. So that's our input damage 5. enemy. Phaser damage results. We don't care about the damage. Well, the damage dealt, we do. Yeah, we want to test that, make sure that it's 0. And yeah, the shield damage. And we don't care about the index, and we care about the enemy, the damaged enemy. So the damage dealt would be 0, and the shield damage should equal 5, the input energy. And the enemy, damaged enemy shield value should now be 5 as well. So then we put it all together and we can just say that phaser damage result would satisfy, shields reduced, bang. That's not good. That's right. Okay, so I think our spec makes a good amount of sense. So we need to fix something about our implementation here. So the factor and the damage amount. So the damage amount is the shield damage is the amount after removing the shield damage that we've done. Plus the factor. And we're going to fix the factor in a second. So take away the shield damage amount. And we'll add back in the... We'll add the factor onto it. Yeah, because floats and stuff. We'll make this... Okay, and the because the factor is getting added back in here, we're getting 2. So maybe we should call this base damage amount. And only add the factor into the damage done to the ship. Or, We only want to apply, we only need the factor if we get past the shields. So if shield damage is greater than 0, the absolute here would be, so if the amount is 2 and the enemy shield value is 1, then shield damage will be, this part of the expression will be 1 minus 2, which will be -1. The absolute value of that will be 1. So we do 1 damage to the shields. Alright, and that should leave 1 damage to do to the enemy ship. So amount would be 2 minus 1, which would be 1, plus any factor. And if the shield value is 10, or the shield value is 2, and the amount is 1, then this is shield damage is 1. So what we need to do then is we need a way of telling if we've any left after taking out the shields. So, let's see. Because this will only be 0 in the case where they're exactly equal. So if we only had shield value of 2 and an amount of 2, then that's the only time we're going to get 0. We take out the absolute value of that, though. We get 0 only when they're equal. We get a negative value when the amount is greater than the shield value. And we get a positive value if the amount is less than the shield value. Okay, so that means that we can compare the shield damage. If it's a negative value, then we can apply some damage amount. And if it's still positive, then we just do 0 and ignore the factor. That means if shield damage is positive, like in our test case here, our spec, where the amount is not greater than the shield value. We need to return 5. Yeah, so I think we should be able to move that abs down here. And here. And let's do that here. Compare shield damage to 0. It's less than. Then we know we've done shield damage, so we can do the amount minus the absolute value of shield damage. So positive. And add the factor. In any other case, just 0. I think we'll make it go. Do what we want. If I could type things properly. No, that was right. Where did I type things wrong here? DMG. No, shield damage. Yeah, shield DMG. There we go. Okay. Wunderbar. This test, actually, I think is a little bit redundant to soak damage, isn't it? Same values, same values. So I'm going to remove this one. Perfect. Okay. We updated calculate blah, blah, blah. Enemy phaser damage. We added shield damage, spoke, and factor. We can squish this all down into one. Okay, so let's just update this. We take the difference in the input amount and the enemy shield value, that's not quite right. We calculate the shield damage. That's the difference between the enemy shield value and input energy amount to be attacked. We calculate the damage applied. After, if the difference in input amount is greater than the shield value, we apply a damage factor, a pseudo-random damage factor. To damage, only to damage applied after removing shields. So there. Okay. What wanted to happen here? What did I must have done something funky there. Weird getness. Okay. No, that's good. That's good. We get it. Alright. So, next steps. What do we gotta do now? We should probably get... Yeah, we're gonna do the damage reports. So now that we know the damage results, let's check on the game, make sure that it looks pretty good, and then... Yeah, we'll do that. So phasers, 20. Okay. So after soaking for the enemies, shields. And we did 11 damage that time. Let's do 11. We did 1. Now we're doing -8. That doesn't seem right. There's a couple of other things too. The energy here should obviously not be able to go to below less than 0, so we need to have enough energy to actually fire the phasers that we want to fire at. And I need an explanation for what's happening here. Let's do the validation step where we need to validate that we have actually enough energy to perform the phaser fire command. Okay, so in the case of the firing mode, a phaser automatic, we need to do a check here. And we basically need to stop computing the rest of this stuff if there's no energy. And I think that's in either case. So energy amount is given us here as an input. And at this point, once we look at the game state, we will know how much energy the ship has. And we should just abort any combat with the phasers if energy amount is greater than the input energy amount. Or the current ship's current energy amount. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to get the ship from the state. Something like that. And when is less than energy amount, oh, we should add some dialogue. We'll generate from combat right now, but I think engineering would probably say something about this. Where they would say, like, we don't have that much energy. Fire the phasers, sir. And then return nothing. Probably should have written the test for this first. Nyeh. My habits on this stream are not as good as, not as normal as when I'm working. Usually when I'm working, I'm very test driven. Okay, simulation ship. Energy. Right, when is it gonna be terribly happy here? Or is it because I didn't know how to do there? That's probably what it is. Yeah, that's what it was. Okay. This, I think, is because I didn't do the fields properly. Or, no, because I haven't done... Yeah. Okay. MTR lens, micro lens, MTL. How do I get the piece that I want? So use game states. What did I call it? I did call it ship. because they named the things wrong. Not following the conventions. Looks like it. Okay, so let's just make sure that works. Okay, so we can't fire 101. That makes sense. Let's pretend we actually wrote the test first. Yeah. Describe. Handle fire phasers. Context. Ship energy is 0. It should not fire phasers. Not drain energy. And it should add dialogue. Yeah, you know what? I'm not feeling like we really need this, actually. On second thought. I think this is good enough. Okay, so when the player ship, we don't have that much energy to fire the phasers. Alright, and our energy doesn't change. Which is good. That's what we want. Okay. And what's the other thing? So the other thing we're noticing is that the energy, when we actually do hit the ship, and we can't do that. Oh, it does do it. It shouldn't do that. Okay, maybe we should add a test for that then. Oh, right. This isn't going to return early from the rest of the function. One's just going to return unit. We're going to go on to the next action here. Right. Okay, that's why that's happening. Blah, 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 blah. So either we need a way to enhance our combat monad to add like exception handling, so to speak, or we just need a way to avoid doing any work unless we have to. There's a handy dandy Haskell function called guard. Yeah, it doesn't really let us do a whole lot of things. Could be good. Basically, this is the wrong thing. So we could, this is the cheesy way, which is fine. Pop all this stuff over. Ooh. Let's do that. Oh, did I start it before we finished rebuilding? Maybe I did. There we go. Yeah, okay. Better. Right, and this works because if is one expression. We could do the case pattern match. It might be a little better. Which, if the player ship's energy is less than the energy amount, I want this. Otherwise, my indentation is even more. No. There we go. It's a little better, I guess. If we have to do... Now, I'm not going to introduce another monad into the stack here right off the bat just to add exceptions, because I think I need exceptions just yet until And we might very well encounter the situation where we're doing a lot of this kind of verification and abort early kind of things. In which case, I think adding an error T on top of here would probably be the right way to go and give us the right semantics for what we want here. But for now, just doing stuff like this is probably okay. Because as handy as monads are, you want to get away with as much as you can without introducing them. Another way to phrase that, I think, is that you want to use only what is sufficient to get the job done. And I like the word sufficient because it means only as much as you need to know more, or as much complexity as required, but you can't take away any more complexity kind of thing, right? As much as is needed to get the job done, basically, and no more, no less. So you don't want to overdo it, basically, with monads, because they can increase the amount of cognitive overhead in your code. They can add certainly a lot of extra finagling. They don't compose as nicely as functions and pure function and like just plain functions do. Like a lot of it's fairly manual and boilerplatey. So it's a lot of busy work that you don't want to pay the cost for unless you actually have to. Alright, so like there's that common programmer wisdom of like, don't introduce a new abstraction until you've seen the same pattern 3 times. What they're really talking about is indirection and like patterns, which don't happen so much with monads, I guess, but sort of can work in a Haskell context. Still, sort of. But hopefully you see what I mean. Okay, that looks okay. Let's commit that. So we'll update handle fire phasers. We return add a or when the input amount from the command is greater than the current energy level of the player ship, add a dialogue in combat that we cannot perform the action and return early without handling combat. Oh my god. Okay, and so the other bit was so damage the enemy ship for 0 there, because that was their shield value. If we do it for 10 again, oh, maybe because they have more and more shields. How much shields did I give them? I didn't give them that much. And this is another thing we need to add later, but if the player ever gets down to 0 energy, they're basically adrift if they haven't completed their goal yet. And it would be game over. But we're not quite there yet. Okay, so that was surprising. Always 0. That was not what we expected. Okay, so this phaser damage result, shield damage, hit point damage. We apply damage to shields. And the damage amount to the enemy. Respect says... What does respect say? It says some things about the damaged enemy. Okay, and... when we start the game state off... it's under sector. Empty sector. Yeah, so enemy 8-3 with 20 hit points, and I think that's 10 shields. Right, 10 shields. Alright, so this is the multiple enemy case. I think. So enemy E1 here. Points 10, shield value 0. Enemy 2, hit points 10, shield value 8. Calculate the phase damage 5 for enemy 1 and 5 for enemy 2. And compare the enemy 1 hit points should be less than enemy 2 hit points. We do 5 to each of them. Yeah, that makes sense. And this enemy should end up with 5 hit points. And this one should have 10 hit points, but 3 shield value left. So we could be a little bit more specific here. But anyways. Yeah, we gotta figure out why that's happening, how this is happening. So 20 should remove the shields from the enemy ship and do 10 damage, plus some factor. So 12. Our factor is probably like 1 point something, and we rounded up to 2 for 12. So the current state of the enemy ship should now have no shields. So if we apply phasers 10, we should do 10 plus some factor damage. It's only saying 1. Is the reporting off, maybe? Something fishy going on there. Okay, so here's where we iterate through the damaged enemies and get the phaser damage results. We generate the damage dialog, phaser damage report, hit point damage. Alright, that's this value here. And the enemy ship. So let's look at generate damage dialog. Enemy position X, position Y, and that damage value. So there is some way that we are... That's fine, that's right. It's not like we're doing something funky when we generate the damage dialog. Damage amount calculation. Okay. Apply damage to shields. Reduces the current shield value by the input. I think if we change this to just add a little debug line here. Enemy, I'll just add that here. We get the current state of the enemy that we're talking about here. I think we'll see what's going on. Yeah, sorry. All right, so if we phasers 20 here, we should reduce the shield value by 10 and apply 10 plus some factor damage to the ship. So the enemy ship's hit points should be, I think we start them off at 20. Yeah. So after this command, the enemy ship's hit point should be like 20 minus that damage value, and the shield value should be 0. I might have to make this a little bigger just to see that. It's not doing any word wrapping here. Hit point's 9. For 11, that makes sense. And I'm gonna have to figure out how to get that to display a little bit. Let's just show the enemy's shield value. Okay, move over there. Lasers 20. So enemy shield value is 0. If we do it again, there it is. It's -10. So basically we're offsetting as much damage as we do by this negative shield value. So the shield value should only be able to go to 0. So in order to fix that with this equation here, we just need the maximum of 0 or this value. I mean, that's a safeguard. Actually, our phaser calculation should return 0 if there's no shields to damage. Or shield damage. This is more of a defensive change. I think it'll make it work. Not quite. No, hang on. Leave that in for a second. Go 10 10 Now we're not doing anything here. Okay, so then it looks like we're only getting the factor in there. So our calculation is almost there, but not quite. There's still something we're not doing right. Yeah, something we haven't specified properly. Okay, so basically what I was thinking with this subtract the shield damage, apply damage to shields, some integer amount. That's a defensive measure. Like the shields shouldn't be able to go below 0. So I like that. I'm going to keep that change, but our calculation for the phaser damage result shouldn't apply any damage to the shields if there's no damage to apply. Like if the shields are 0, then we're not going to apply any damage to the shields. They're going to go straight to the ship. So we're not quite done yet. This line here. Yeah, so if shield value is 0, we're still subtracting the amount. And then we're setting that as the damage done. And that. So actually, what we should have is here. Then we can't compare on the shield damage here. So this is wrong. So our tests aren't good enough. Let's go over there. Okay, so when the enemy shields are down, I think we have a case here that we need to fix. We need to add in order to reveal the error in our ways. Should not report any shield damage. So if we take this enemy state, or let's see, we may even make this better. Damage is applied. Yeah, let's take the phaser damage result here. So damage is applied. Damage dealt. Shield damage. We don't care about the index of the enemy, but we do care about the damaged enemy, which we called previously damaged E. Okay, damage dealt is not 0. That's pretty good. We want to make sure that shield damage is equal to 0. And damaged enemy shield value is also equal to 0 still. We'll change this to E. What's my problem here? Oh, just our test failed. Okay, cool. That's what we wanted. That's good. I like it. Alright, so our enemies start off with 10 hit points and no shields. 0 shields. Shields are down. And then we try to calculate phaser damage with an input of 5. Okay. So we do a damage of 2. Damage delta does not equal 0. That's right. Shield value damage equals 5. That should be 0. So that's wrong. And the new value should be 10 minus the damage dealt. And the shield value should be 0. So we could even add that here. Alright, damaged. Oh yeah, we do have that. So this is hit points plus the damage dealt is equal to the input hit points. Yeah. So 2 plus 8 should be 10. Yeah, so it's just the shield value here that's off in our thing. So once we get this test to pass, I think that ought to, hopefully that ought to cap this off. So let's go back to the combat module. Okay, so when basically this if this is less than 0, we're comparing on 0 here, then it's not the absolute value here. I think what we actually do need is the maximum here. So if it's negative, we don't actually want to do any shield damage. We just want to do 0. Okay, so shield damage is 0, that's right. But now the enemy hit points reported are 3. Let's go back to our spec. Shield damage should be 0. Right. Oh, enemy shield value should be 0, that's true. Damage to enemy hit points. 3, and plus the damage dealt. 7 should equal E to hit points. 10. 3 plus 7 does equal 10. Are we looking at the right test? Oh, we're not looking. This is a different test reporting failure now. Okay, that's why. So that works, but we've mucked up something else here. When the shields are up, should do some damage when the energy is greater than the shields. Ah, okay. Should do some damage when the energy is greater than the shields. Okay. We're trying to do input energy of 10 and the shield value of 5. So we're expecting the shield damage dealt to be 5. But it's 0. So we didn't implement it quite right. No, actually this, let's see. Yeah, we should be 5 there. Yeah, it should be 5, and then the enemy shield value should be 0 after the attack. Okay, so our input amount is 10. Alright, the initial shield value is 5. 5 minus 10 is negative 5. So we go to damage amount. And compare the shield damage, negative 5 to 0. It's less than. So we go to this branch. We get amount minus the absolute value of shield damage. So that would be 5. So 10 minus 5 plus our factor. So 5 plus 2 in this case, which is 7. Yeah, so this is wrong. I fixed it for our other example case, but we know it's not. I think what we had before was absolute, and that's not, wasn't right either. Yeah, absolute was not right. I think so. This is kind of like doing, I don't know, maybe we're getting the logic a little bit hinky here. The shield damage here, we're testing if it's negative. More like, yeah. Okay, so if it's 10 minus 5, it's 5 minus 10, we get a negative value, and we get the correct amount for damage amount. But then how much damage did we actually do to the shields? If it's negative, we know that we've done more than the shield value. We did something silly like this. It's less than the shield damage we've done is just the shield value. This is really hacky and kind of ugly, but and in the case where it's greater than or equal, then we know it's just shield damage. Right, if the shield value is 10 and the amount is 5, then shield value 10 minus 5 should be the damage dealt. Yeah. Okay, so that works, but I don't like the code. We're comparing shield damage to 0 twice. It's more like we could almost replace it with like a Boolean did hit or did get past shields. It works, but we're out of time, so at least we got the test back to green. Let's just test out the game and make sure that that starts working properly now the way we expect. So I'm starting to get a bit of stream brain. So 20. We hit the enemy for 11. Their shield value is now 0. So if we do 10, we should expect at least 10. If not more. We're still getting back down to 0. Yeah. Okay. Let us re-enable our little debugginess. In our combat module. That's where we did it. Let's show more of the enemy. Okay, I did phasers 10, phasers 10, so that should take out their shields. Start doing damage to them, but it's not. Let's show the hit points and shield value. Changing anything about the enemy until I go over their shields. Okay. Let's make that show up. Okay, so shield. This should soak damage test. Says our hit points start off at 10 and the shield value is 10. And if we apply 5 to the phaser damage, we should get damage dealt 0. The shield damage should be 5, and the damaged enemy's shield value should be reduced to 5. Yeah. That works. It's not showing up in the game simulation. So enemy's shield value gets down to 0 and doesn't change. The enemy's health is being reduced. By this. Alright, their health is still at 20. But their shield value isn't going down. If I do 11, the shield goes down by 1. We do damage for 12. When the shield's out, maybe we should do like a dropped shields. When damage is high, we drop shields. So in this case, if we run our computation here with 10, here, we expect damage dealt to be 0, shield damage to be 10, and damage enemy shield value to be 0. And just for funsies, hit points to be equal to E hit points. And in other words, nothing has changed there. Let's go. Okay, give me an error. Test failure. Okay, here we go. Enemy shield value is still 10. Hit points are still 10, which is good. We reported 0 shield damage. Okay, so I think I'm getting a good hint, I think, from this that what we're doing here is not quite right. So the amount of damage we're going to do to the shields, let's think of a different formula that we can think about here. Is going to be the let's see, if the shield value is 10 and the input damage is 5, then we're going to do 5 damage to the shields. If the input damage is 8 and the shield value is 10, then we're going to do 8. If the input damage is 10 and the shield value is 10, we're going to do 10 damage. And if the input value is 11 and the shield value is 10, we're going to do 10 damage. So I think what that is the max of either the amount or the current shield value. Okay. So we're either going to do... We're going to do something about that. Some amount of damage to the shields. But if the shield value is 0 and the input is 10, then this would be 10, which is what we don't want. Yeah, so this formula only works if shield value is not 0. Maybe we could put a guard on it. Might be a way to do it. Greater than 0. In the otherwise case, if the enemy shield value is 0, then it should just be 0. Okay, so then damage amount. Yeah, I think we can just go back to this formula. I think that makes sense now, right? This can go away as well. Maybe I accidentally changed the indentation there. Okay, that's right. Shield value is 0. But the damage we're calculating is still because of the factor. We're doing some amount of damage when we should really look at the shield damage. Greater than 0. No. So if the shield damage is greater than 0, no, we only... Yeah, that's the thing. The damage amount, we only apply it after we've reduced the shield value to 0. So I think if we apply that here as our guard and check that it's 0, that might do it. So if the enemy shield value minus the shield damage that we calculate, that we're going to do, is equal to 0, then we're going to do the amount minus the shield damage plus the ceiling factor. Otherwise, nothing. Yeah, is... So we're still failing this test case because when the shield value can only go to 0 and shield damage is 0. So in the case where 0 is equal to 0, then we're going to apply the amount of damage minus the shield damage, which might be 0, plus the ceiling factor. So it's another way of looking at the damage amount. If the amount of input damage minus the current shield value of the enemy is still greater than 0, that must mean that we've done more But we should be doing more damage than the shields have. Enemy dot shield value. Okay, so when the shields are up, should soak damage. We reported 10 phase shield damage. Yep, so this is right. No. This isn't right. This is unnecessary. So in the case here, the shield value of 10, we're trying to do 5 damage, and shield damage should be 5. Okay, so the enemy shield value is 10, and that's greater than 0. We're trying to we get the max of amount, which is 5 or 10, so this should be 10. So we're going to apply 10 shield damage. We're going to report that as shield damage. We're going to apply that damage to the shields. So, or no, 5. Sorry, it should be 5. Right, so amount is 5 and the shield value is 10. So the amount, we're not actually going to be doing 10 damage here. We shouldn't be doing. We should only be doing 5. This is what I think I thought the formula should have been the absolute value of current shield value minus the amount. I don't think that's right, but well, it solves a couple of those things, but it's not quite right for this one case. So when the enemy shields are up, it should drop the shields. And that's where input should be 10. Alright, so 10 minus 10 is 0. Alright, so this doesn't work in that case. Try that. Nah. I'm just banging on numbers here. Fixes that case, but breaks this one. Okay. The amount of shield damage we are going to do, right, is going to be, in the case where our input is 10 and our shield is 10, we should just do 10. Alright, our input is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. It should be that much. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It should be 10. And then if the input damage is any more than that, 11 should still be 10. 12 should still be 10. 13 it should still be 10. Okay. If the amount is less than or equal to the enemy shield value, then it's just the amount. If the amount is greater than the enemy field value, then it's just enemy shield value. Otherwise, no damage. Finally. God. Okay. Sure there's a better name for this, but whatever. Let's try to move. 7, 3. Fire them phasers. 20. Hit the enemy for 11. They have 0 shields left. Go again. Hit him for another 10. Sweet. We do 12 damage. It leaves them at -3. Well, now we need to implement enemy destruction. The shield value is still 0. Another 10. Ah, beautiful. All right, 12. Okay, now we got it. Woo! Streamberry, man, it's real. I'll tell you. Okay, we got it this time. For showsies. Okay. I think we might be able to squish this one into that. Okay. And that's that. Alright. Meep. Okay, let's stop it down. Let's push this code up. There we go. Alright, so thanks for tuning in and following along with me. Chat's been pretty quiet tonight, but if you don't know, you can always pause me and ask me for questions. I'm happy to help on your Haskell journey. Or just talk about whatever you want to talk about. If you don't understand something, or you know Haskell better than I do, and you want to point out some tips and tricks, go ahead. All good, all welcome. The code for this project, Lambda Trek, is up here on GitHub. So you can follow along there if you like. I'm Agent Ultra. It's been a pleasure. I'm also on the Fediverse. I'm on the types.pl server at Agent Ultra. And a lot of other places. Go to the Discord, this link up here to go to our Discord server. We've got lots of other cool people who do streaming in different programming languages that are declarative or functional in nature, including Haskell and others, like this one. So you can go there and jump in our channel, and you can ask your questions there, especially if you're following a different time zone or trying to catch up on the project or didn't want to ask a question on stream. You can ask it there as well. I usually do these streams on Tuesday evenings at about 10 after 8 in the Eastern time zone. And, follow that, subscribe, following, whatever, to get notifications and blah, blah, bells and upvotes and all that stuff. Every little bit helps. Grows the audience, gets Haskell out there, gets functional programming out there. So if you want to see more of it, like it. Okay? And we'll see you next week. May your monads be free and your types always check. See ya.